Today is a very special day of the year. It's Lag BaOmer, which the translation would be the 33rd day of the counting of the Omer. I'm not going to explain the whole thing of what Lag BaOmer is, and the counting and the Omer, and no. It's not the time for that. But very short, we remember basically two facts, two ideas, two stories. Story number one, which are really long stories that I'm not going to explain the whole story, but you can look it up, you will find it. Story number one about Rabi Akiva. We're talking about year 120 of the Common Era, Rabi Akiva. He had 24,000 students, and actually this is what we're going to learn about. And they all passed away 1 year, and they stopped passing away in the day of Lag BaOmer. Okay, so we celebrate this time. We're actually between Pesach and Shavuos, two holidays of Jewish people. We're actually mourning their deaths, their passing away. But this particular day, since they stopped passing away, so we celebrate. Story number two of a student of Rabi Akiva, Rabí Shimon bar Iochai, Rabí Shimon ben Iochai is the same person, that he passed away this day, many years after Rabi Akiva, of course, and he asked this day to be a happy day. Simchas Rashbi, the happiness of Rashbi, actually, where he's buried in Miron, in Eretz Israel. Thousands and thousands of people gathered together in this particular day, and they make bonfires because the last day he was teaching his students, there was a fire around the house. It's a whole story that these are the two main issues of Lag BaOmer. We're going to learn a talk of the Rebbe, at least superficially. There are so many notes, but we're not going to learn the notes. This was actually pronounced by the Rebbe in 1984, in a day of Lag BaOmer, regarding the day of Lag BaOmer. It is known, the story of the Talmud. The Talmud says that there were 24,000 pairs of students to Rabi Akiva, which I seriously recommend to look for the stories of Rabi Akiva. He started learning at 40 years old. He was a really ignoramus completely. He didn't know how to read and learn. It's really a long and interesting story. But the point is that he actually gathered 24,000 students. And all of them passed away in the same period of time. This particular idea, period of time, is going to be important for the next of the talk of the Rebbe, between Pesach and Shavuos. Why did they pass away? Because they were not respectful, honorable. They didn't honor each other. And in the day of Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the count of the Omer, that means the 33rd day after Pesach, they stopped dying. That's what the Talmud says. Take it or leave it, so to speak. Now the Rebbe starts explaining this. Apparently, we need to understand this whole story. We take it that that's what the Talmud says. Okay, but what does it mean? It's a very simple thing, an obvious thing, that all of these students, and we're talking about 24,000 people, which is a lot of people, they didn't become students in one day, like all together. Hello, master, 24,000 people in front of Rabi Akiva, want to be your students. No. It didn't happen that way. Except, rather, it happened in many, many years. Like he gathered so many students, and it took many years. That means that when he started teaching these students, and he became a famous rabbi, and his name became famous all around the land of Israel and so on, and his Torah, his teachings and so on, then students started gathering around him, and in the passing of time, they grew, the students, and they became 24,000 people. That's the logical thing to think about, logical thing to say. In the same way, it's obvious and understood that the way they behaved did not change in 1 second. Like suddenly there were very good people and students, and from one day to another, they don't respect each other, they have to die. It doesn't sound like normal. What the Talmud says, that they didn't respect each other and so on, it sounds more normal to say that this happened throughout time. And moreover, very difficult to understand why they were all punished so harsh and at the same period of time. Again, 33 days between Pesach and Shavuos, which is completely 49 days, but at the 33rd day they stopped dying. So we say 33 days for certainly they were punished. all together. It's very difficult to say such a thing, that in such a short period of time between Pesach and Shavuos, they really bothered so much God that all of them, 24,000 people, passed away. Doesn't sound so normal and so easy to say. Therefore, we're forced to say that in this particular period of time, something special happened, something else happened, and therefore they passed away in this period of time. So, in other words, what the Rebbe is asking, besides the first questions, what happened with these people, and we're going to see more details later, what the Rebbe is asking is, why is the Talmud so precise to say that all of them died and there was a period of time? Like, what's the meaning of this? Why all of them in such a weird period of time? Why? That's chapter number 1. Chapter number 2. We can say about this. First, let's explain what does it mean that the students of Rabi Akiva, they did not honor each other. Apparently, it's very difficult to understand what the Talmud is saying. What does that mean? Their teacher, Rabi Akiva, he was, in Hebrew we say Tana. Tana means a teacher in the times of the Mishnah. He was a Tana, and there were many, many Tanoim, in plural. He stressed the great importance and virtue of loving your fellow Jew. You will love your fellow Jew as you love yourself. And the Talmud records that Rabi Akiva used to say, this is the great rule of the Torah. Like, it's recorded in his name. He used to stress this so much. Being so, it's very difficult to understand how his students, they did not respect each other. Wait a second, your teacher, are you a student of your teacher? Yes. Your teacher spends the whole time talking about loving the other one, and you don't respect each other? What's going on over here? This is what the Rebbe is asking. And it's explained in different places. This is not the only talk of the Rebbe that deals with this question. It's explained in different places that, on the contrary, precisely because they were students of Rabi Akiva, that caused that they did not honor each other. What does that mean? The explanation. Our sages said that the normal rule in human beings, this applies to every single human being in the face of the earth, we don't think all of us together in the same way. We don't think the same way. Each one of us thinks in a different way. To the point, the Rebbe doesn't quote it, but this is the idea. The Talmud says, just as our faces are different, our ways of thinking are different. That's why we look different from each other. And it's understandable also that the same happened with the 24,000 students of Rabi Akiva. That each one of them understood the teachings, the lessons of Rabi Akiva according to his understanding, his way, his quote-unquote face. And according to their analysis, they came to a conclusion that according to the way I understand, that's the true meaning of the teachings of my master, Rabi Akiva, my teacher, Rabi Akiva. And therefore, when they heard that the fellow student learns differently the words of Rabi Akiva, I understand my teacher in this way. And he understands the teacher in a different way. Wait a second. According to the way I understand, you're wrong. You're definitely wrong. And you're understanding our teacher wrong. Therefore, he couldn't respect and really honor the other person. You're not getting the point. You're not understanding our teacher properly. Because definitely, I'm learning in a different way. I know that the way I understand is the truth, so you're wrong. You're really wrong. And definitely, the Rebbe adds this in brackets, which is interesting. It's like a side note. To say that the students of Rabi Akiva, they behaved from the mouth, from the lips to the outside, like they showed themselves in one way, but they felt in a different way, that's completely understood. That is not even possible to think about this by the students of Rabi Akiva. No way. Because definitely they were true people. They said what they thought and what they felt, the way they felt. And there's a famous expression in Talmud, Toichom Kebaram. their inner way was exactly the same as you saw in the outside. The outside and the inner, in the inside were exactly the same. And they couldn't behave in one way in the outside and in a different way in the inside. So forget it. If you're wrong, I can't honor you. You're wrong. Comes out that precisely because they were students of Rabi Akiva, that was precisely the reason why they could not behave. They did not behave in an honorable way one to each other. Each one of the students of Rabi Akiva was completely given over with his whole soul to the Torah, to the teachings of his Rav, of his teacher, to the point that they could not stand that somebody else explains the teachings of his teacher in a wrong way, according to his understanding, of course. In particular, that is really a mistake, and you're wrong by learning they were all students of the same teacher. So our teacher, you're really not understanding our teacher, and you still want to be called a student of our teacher. You're not understanding what he says, so you're completely wrong. I can't honor you. I can't honor you. Obviously, it was not possible for one student to honor the other one. Moreover, says the Rebbe, this kind of behavior has a strength specifically because of this fundamental teaching of Rabi Akiva. That he said, you will love your fellow Jew like yourself. This is a great rule in the Torah. Precisely because Rabi Akiva taught this and lived this, that's the cause they could not behave in a different way towards each other. Why? If it wouldn't be for this teaching, it could happen that one student would not care so much, at least so much, what the other student doesn't understand the Torah, the teachings of Rabi Akiva properly. Like, if I don't love you, I really don't care if you're wrong. It's not that it bothers me. It bothers me because I care about you. Therefore, you say 1 + 1 is 3. Ay, hurts me. I care so much about you. I have to correct you. You're wrong. It's 2. And you say, no, it's 3. It's 2. Now, if I don't care about you, say whatever you want. I don't care. You say it's 3, so say it's 3. You want to say 4, so say 4. I don't care. I know you're wrong, but I don't really care. It's your problem. It's like when you see the son of a neighbor doing something wrong. You know what? Has a father, he has a mother. Let them take care of the son. But he's doing wrong things. Okay, he's not my son. Whatever. I can go and say, excuse me, child, you're wrong. And he doesn't listen to me. Okay, that's it. I don't really care. But if it's your son, you love him. Oh, you're not going to stop. You're doing something wrong. You're not behaving, etc., etc. So precisely because their teachers stressed so much, love each other, they couldn't stand that the other one is wrong. However, again, because the teacher, Rabi Akiva, they taught them the virtue and the incredible importance of keeping this commandment of loving your fellow Jew like yourself and so on, they could not satisfy themselves by just learning and moving on and forward into understanding the Torah and the teachings of Rabi Akiva. Rather, each one of them really made an effort to influence every single one around them. Their fellows were fellow students of Rabi Akiva. So each one of them really wanted to make the other one think the way they thought. In particular, the Talmidim, the students of Rabi Akiva himself. They were all a fellowship, a group of people, students of the same teacher. They had to understand the Torah, the teachings of the Rav, of Rabi Akiva, in the same way, the true way, quote unquote, the way I understand, of course, is the truth. So you have to understand the way I understand. And you have to agree to what I say. And those who did not accept, quote unquote, the truth, the way I understand the truth, I can't respect that. I can't honor that. And definitely not the honor that another student of Rabi Akiva deserves. Like when you say students of Rabi Akiva, you're not saying just students. Okay, you know what? A teacher, anyway, any teacher goes to school and has lots of students, lots of children going back and forth, back and forth. Are there like your students? Okay, whatever students at school. But when you have in the same school, like a special class for the most advanced students, like really the top ones, they gather together in a certain room and they have a teacher for them because, they're higher than the other ones. So there's a teacher over there. So these students are really students of that teacher. Like when they talk in the hallways of the school, what's your teacher? My teacher is blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're a student of blah, blah, blah? You're in that class? I want to be in that class. Okay, you have to be smart to be there. I'm there. So they consider themselves really students of this whatever teacher. It's a special class. It's a special class. So over here, in order to be considered a student of Rabi Akiva, you have to have some level of learning. Not everybody was a student of Rabi Akiva. I'm a student of Torah. Yeah, you know what? Everybody teaches Torah and learns Torah. You're a student of Rabi Akiva? Really? The higher class? Ooh. So definitely, if somebody else was, quote unquote, wrong, they couldn't honor them as a student of Rabi Akiva. You're a fool. What do you mean a student of Rabi Akiva? You don't even understand what Rabi Akiva is saying. You got it wrong. Okay, that's explanation of their honor. Chapter 3, let's go to see the other side of the coin. Completely opposite. Even though it's understandable that this is not a proper behavior for the students of Rabi Akiva, after all, they're not honoring somebody else, that even if you want to say that according to their understanding, the different understandings, there was not a blemish in the relationship between all of them, because each one of them has to give room to the understanding of the other one. Like if you're a developed, let's call it quote unquote adult human being, when you hear somebody else thinks differently than you don't have to punch him in the face. You don't have to spit in their face and say, you're wrong, you're nothing. Hey, wait a second. We're adults over here. You say one thing, I say a different thing. Okay, I don't agree to you. I don't have to hit you. I don't have to insult you because I don't agree. I can live with that. It's okay. People don't agree to me. Okay, you know how many people doesn't agree with me? I don't care. So how can you say that these people behaved in this way and they were not able not even to hear that somebody else thinks different? No, I have to force you to think the way I think. Okay, that's what we understood before. We explained this. That's why they did not honor each other. Okay, nice explanation. But again, the other side of the coin is it really a good behavior? Sounds strange for Talmid Rabi Akiva, for the students of Rabi Akiva, in such a high way and high level and so on. Because after all, they were students of Torah, students of Rabi Akiva, and whatever they said, it's also considered, the expression in Hebrew is Eilu ve'eilu divrei Elokim chaim. Both words are the words of the living God. You see Torah in one way, within the boundaries of Torah and Judaism and so on, you understand one way, I understand the other way, and both are the ways that God Himself expresses in different ways. That's why different rabbis and different students learn and understand in different ways. I don't mean that somebody's wrong. Again, if somebody's wrong, okay, I'm sorry, you're wrong, learn again, or I can teach you, whatever. But if just they're tzaddikim, they're righteous people, they're students of Rabi Akiva, and they just understand in different ways the teachings of Rabi Akiva, that doesn't mean they're wrong. None of them are wrong. Both are right. They just see different perspectives. Therefore, their behavior in an opposite way, they did not honor each other and so on, as we explained, that was considered something really wrong. The Rebbe doesn't even want to say wrong. He says bilti ratzui, not acceptable, so to speak, not good. In particular, to the level of the students of Rabi Akiva. However, how can we say that for such a quote unquote, the Rebbe writes in quotes, chet, sin, they were punished in such a harsh way? Okay, I got it. It's not a correct behavior for your level and so on. But death penalty? Wow, sounds too much. And 24,000 people have to die because they didn't behave like this? Wait a second. That's too much. That's what the Rebbe is asking right now. Okay, we understood why they did not behave, why they didn't honor each other. But it's not enough that to say you have to die. Oy vey, we will be all dead. So what's going on? In particular, according to what we understood before, that we're not talking really about disrespect, hitting each other and spitting in the face and insulting and so on. No. That's not what we're talking about. Of course, we're not talking about a lack of love for each other, which is completely the opposite of the teachings of Rabi Akiva. They were students of Rabi Akiva. So what kind of behavior are we talking about? We're talking about, says the Rebbe, a lack of feeling. The Rebbe stresses this word. Feeling within yourself, respect, true respect for the other one. So again, it doesn't mean that they were like Rabi Akiva once came to the school and they were all hitting each other. It's a whole fight going on between 24,000 people. No. They were all sitting, smiling, looking to the front, in silence, to learn the lesson and to listen to Rabi Akiva. But they felt, this guy that is by me, he doesn't understand a word. He doesn't really know what Rabi Akiva is saying. I can't respect that. It was just a feeling. Because that's something that actually it's proper for the students of Rabi Akiva. Again, we're true people, so therefore I can't feel honor for somebody that I know, quote unquote, because I know the truth, quote unquote, I know he's wrong. So I can't feel well about that. I can't. And within this itself, there's such a thing, there's an expression that is called Milchamta shel Torah, the war of Torah. What does it mean, the war of Torah? We were promised that even if two students, or two Talmidim, two Talmidei Chachomim, two rabbis, whatever, they quote unquote fight so much, this war of Torah, this proof, the other proof, I'm wrong, you're right, back and forth, to the point that they even become enemies because they represent really opposite ideas. However, and this is a quote of the Talmud, which is very interesting in itself, they will not move out of their place until they become lovers to each other. And that's why it says in Pashas Chukas, it's a long story that I'm not going to explain. In Pashas Chukas appears a story of different travels that the Jewish people traveled through the desert, different stories. And those stories are really alluded to. It's not so clear what the story was. The Midrashim, our sages explain what the story was, where the stories were, and so on. But there's one story. Es Vahev Vesufa. It's the name of places. They don't mean anything. Vahev is the name of a place. Vesufa is in the end of something. Doesn't really mean anything. It's just names of places. But the Talmud takes these two words and says something very interesting. Sufa comes from the word soif, end. The end. Vahev is the same root as the word ahava, love. So besufa, we can argue and prove each other wrong for hours. But when we finish, vahev, we love each other. Don't worry. This was just the word of Torah. That doesn't mean I hate you or you hate me. No, not at all. So certainly, the students of Rabi Akiva, they knew this teaching also. And certainly, they had to somehow love each other, because even after arguing for hours, you still have to love each other. So we don't understand why were they punished so harsh for feeling not respect for the other one. We can say, says the Rebbe, that this is precisely the precision, so to speak, of the words of our sages. They passed away, all of them, in the same period of time, Perek Echad in Hebrew, in the same period of time. This comes to teach us that the fact that they all passed away wasn't just because their sin, quote unquote, mentioned before, that they were not honoring each other. There was something more. This was a consequence, their death was a consequence of something special of that period of time. That also caused that they passed away. So, before moving on, because the Rebbe is going to bring another story in order to explain what's going on, where are we standing right now? First of all, we brought the story of Rabi Akiva. 24,000 students, they passed away in a period of time. Then we explained that Rabi Akiva loved each other and taught to love each other and so on. And certainly their students, if they were called their students of Rabi Akiva, certainly they also behaved this way. So we don't understand what's going on over here. And the Rebbe explains, because of love, in Spanish there's an expression, because I love you, I hate you, which is terrible, of course. But because out of love, they couldn't stand that the other one is thinking wrong, quote unquote, so they pushed, so to speak, their understanding into somebody else. In a way of feeling, at least. They could not feel honor towards the other person. But on the other hand, this doesn't sound such a hard sin, so to speak. So why did they have to die? We don't understand that. And that's part of life, milchamta shel Torah. That's the way Torah works. We fight and fight and fight, and at the end we love each other. Don't worry, that's okay. But we fight. I'm right, you're wrong, and so on. So the Rebbe concludes, something else happened over here. There was another factor that we're missing, something that all the factors put together, they caused the death of the students of Rabi Akiva. Fourth chapter. We will understand this when we see another story of our sages that is brought down in really another place, completely different place, but uses exactly the same expression. All of them passed away in a period of time. Same expression. So let's see what the story was, and we will find many similarities to the story of Rabi Akiva. It's brought down in Talmud Yerushalmi. Over there's a story of 24,000, same number, similarity number one, 24,000 groups of students of Beis Rebbe. Beis Rebbe could be either the house of study of Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, or some other rabbi, could be another rabbi. Like they were students. And they entered some place in the city of Lut. Till today we have the city of Lut in Eretz Yisrael, in the center of Eretz Yisrael. And they were actually working into deciding whether there has to be one more month to the year or not. It's a very long thing to explain now what this means in all details, but the general idea is the Jewish year takes the months according to the cycle of the moon. And the cycle of the moon is a little bit different than the cycle of the sun. So that generates that the sun and the moon, even if they started in the same time, since the sun takes a little bit longer, so to speak, to go forward, so the moon moves forward faster and the sun slower, and that generates that the stations of the year fall in different times of the year. If you see, I know this is not the best example, but this is the only one I have in my mind right now, but if you see Ramadan by the Muslims, it falls completely in different times of the year. One year falls in one time, another year falls in a different time. It's whatever. Suddenly say, Ramadan, 1 month, whatever. They're garbage. They do their garbage. Okay. But why do they fall in different times of the year? And if you see the holidays of the Jews, they always fall in the same time of the year. Pesach is by spring. Always. Shavuot is close to the summer. Always. Sukkot is always before the rains. How do they do this? Why? Because our calendar, it's a monthly moon calendar, but from time to time, 2-3 years, we add another month to the year in order to put together again the sun and the moon. So the moon moves forward fast, the sun slower, and suddenly, boop, we add another year and we put them together again. Why do we do this? Because the Torah says that Pesach is B'chodesh Ha'aviv, in the month of spring. So the Torah is stressing that Pesach always has to fall in spring. And therefore, again, since the moon moves faster, whatever, the months of the moon have 29 days, and a few more hours, and the months of the sun is 30 days and a few more hours. So therefore, to put them together, we add another month. So these 24,000 students of Rebbe, whomever he was, they gathered together in Lut, in the city of Lut, to discuss whether they had to add another month or not to that particular year. and something happened to them. And there was Ain Hara, a bad eye. Something happened to them, and they passed away, all of them, in the same period. So we see, again, similarity number one to the story of Rabi Akiva, 24,000 students. Similarity number two, they all passed away. Similarity number three, in the same time, like in the same period of time. There's only one difference, that the Talmud is saying in the Talmud Yerushalmi, that why did they pass away? Ain hara, bad eye. And in the story of Rabi Akiva, they didn't respect and honor each other. That's the only difference. The reason why. But the whole story is basically the same story. Now, in this explanation of our sages, the Talmud explains the reason, the only reason for the death. That there were so many students, 24,000 students, a pair of students, whatever. Therefore, they had Ain hara, bad eye. And we could say, says the Rebbe puts together these two stories. We could say that we can learn from that story to our story, from the story of the month and so on, to the story of Rabi Akiva. Because the same exact words are brought down, that means the same consequence, they all passed away in the same period of time. That the reason why the Talmidim, the students of Rabi Akiva, passed away in the same period of time, in one period of time, was because in that period of time, their number reached 24,000. The Rebbe is going to explain this in a second, but what I want to stress is the following thing, in order to understand it a little bit easier or clearer, if it's not. The Rebbe brought at the beginning, certainly Rabi Akiva didn't wake up one morning and said, oh, I have 24,000 students. No. They gathered. It took time until one day the number reached 24,000. Okay, very nice. So in the particular moment that the number of students of Rabi Akiva reached this special number, 24,000, that's where the problem came up. Why? There was such a big number of students, and the Rebbe puts into brackets, and within this number itself, the number 24, it's connected to dinim, to gvura, to severity, to harshness. As it's understood for what it's written in the Zohar, whatever. The Zohar says that there are 24, not 24,000, 24 houses of judgment, whatever, gvura, severity. And like we see in the story of the Talmud Yerushalmi, there were also 24 groups of students. So we see that the number 24 carries in itself something hard, something difficult, something of severity. And therefore, in the moment that Rabi Akiva reached 24,000, like he had followers, YouTube and all this garbage, so suddenly 24,000 followers, oy vey! One factor was they did not have honor for each other. Another factor was 24,000, the number 24, it's a difficult number, that's it. One thing added to the other thing generated the death of them. That generated, all of them passed away. That generated Ain hara, bad eye on them. It's too many Jews together, whatever, and they all passed away. They all passed away. So we see, we cannot learn the story of Rabi Akiva without understanding the story of Talmud Yerushalmi regarding a different rabbi with a different story. But both stories, they help each other to understand what happened in that story. Now, this is not a contradiction to what is clearly written in Talmud Bavli regarding the story of Rabi Akiva, that they did not held honor one to each other. Because again, over here we have two things causing one consequence. On one hand, they did not respect each other. By themselves, that's not a good behavior, but it's not such a hard sin to be punished with death penalty in itself. But because there was such a perek, says the Rebbe, such a period, the period of time over here refers to exactly the moment that Rabi Akiva reached 24,000. Oy! That period of time, that's it. You're done. That caused bad eye, Ein Hara, to enter them, so to speak, for this sin, together with this sin, that they did not honor each other and so on, to get both things together caused their death. And maybe, says the Rebbe, we could say that this is similar to what we find that in a moment of anger, that in heavens, whatever, there's anger over there, for whatever reason, those who don't run after the observance of a mitzvah of tzitzis, which tzitzis means the fringes that Jews use in garments of four corners, etc. Doesn't matter the details, but the point is that when a person does not run after means you're really looking for doing this mitzvah, which in itself is a very interesting thing. I have to explain this, otherwise it's going to be impossible to understand. If a person, a Jew, just for Jews, not for non-Jews, if a Jew has a garment of four corners, he's obligated to put tzitzis into that garment. But if a person does not wear the garment, or does not wear any garment of four corners, which actually our garments today don't have four corners, you're not obligated in tzitzis. Like, you're not doing anything wrong if you don't wear a garment of four corners to put tzitzis on it. The custom of Hasidim, of most of religious Jews, is to we put a garment of four corners and then we put tzitzis on it. I'm fulfilling another mitzvah, look, my fringes. Okay, but if you don't wear that garment, you're not obligated, no problem. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just not keeping one mitzvah. But it's not a prohibition. Now, what the Rebbe is bringing over here from the Talmud is that when there's anger in heavens for whatever reason, that expresses as punishment to people that don't run after keeping this mitzvah. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just not keeping the mitzvah. Why are you not keeping the mitzvah? Because I don't have any garment of four corners. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm fine. Yeah, you know what? But today, it's a difficult day in heavens. I don't know what happened over there. They didn't do the breakfast for God, or something happened over there, and he's angry. And therefore, forget it. Even if you didn't do anything wrong, but you're not running after keeping this mitzvah, that's it. Today you could be punished. And there are other examples, says the Rebbe. I don't know what the examples are, but there are other examples. So with this, we still have one more chapter to the Sichot, but with this we understand what happened with the students of Rabi Akiva. Different factors added up, one on top of the other, and that generated the death of 24,000 people. Now, Lag BaOmer, as I mentioned in the beginning, Lag BaOmer also has a story of Rabí Shimon, who actually was a student of Rabi Akiva. So now the Rebbe is going to connect everything that was taught to Rabí Shimon. But the connection is actually very interesting, and some explanation has to be done also for Bnei Noach, for non-Jews, regarding this particular connection. So let's see. Chapter 5. Now, this story regarding the students of Rabi Akiva that passed away because they did not honor each other, it's a part of the Torah. And the Torah comes from the word hoirah, teaching, lessons. Torah's lessons. To the point that because they passed away, our custom, the Jewish custom between Pesach and Shavuos, is to have it's a period of mourning because they passed away. We're crying, so to speak, they're dead. So that means that story has an expression in Jewish law. That's what the Rebbe is saying. So there is a teaching, there is a lesson over here. We can understand from this that even though we're talking about the students of Rabi Akiva and their amazing virtue and so on, we can learn that that's exactly why, as we learned, that's exactly why they did not honor each other. However, this was brought down, and we have to brought down in the Talmud. It's a story that was recorded in the Talmud. You can imagine thousands of stories that happened to thousands of people throughout the ages. Not all of them are in the Talmud. This one is. So therefore, this is part of the Torah. of the teachings that every single Jew, that's the way the Rebbe write it, that's why I'm saying it like that. Every single Jew, of course, non-Jews also have to learn from this, and we'll learn later about this, has to learn about this, from this, how has to be the completeness of loving each other. Ahavas Israel, love your fellow Jew, even in situations that because of different reasons, there would be room not to show honor for the other one, like the Talmidim, like the students of Rabi Akiva. So again, since they passed away because of that, so that teaches you very simple, honor your fellow, whatever, Jew, or as we're going to learn later. But the point is, don't behave like them. That's the teaching, that's the lesson, very clear, even though they were Talmidim of Rabi Akiva, students of Rabi Akiva. And we can say that this is connected also to the other reason for Lag BaOmer, the happiness of Lag BaOmer. It's the day of the passing away of Rabí Shimon ben Iochai. That he was one of the students, the last students of Rabi Akiva. What does it mean, last students of Rabi Akiva? That he learned with him after the story that they all passed away and so on. The Talmud says that after this story, Rabi Akiva felt so bad. 24,000 students, they passed away. It's not so easy for the teacher either. So he was so sad. He traveled to the south. That's the way it's written down. He traveled to the south and he gathered 5 new students, just 5 students. And from those 5 students today, we have the complete oral Torah, basically, based on Rabi Akiva. One of these 5 students was Rabí Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi. There are others, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua. Okay, but the point is that Rabbi Shimon was one of the students, the later, so to speak, students of Rabi Akiva. One of the things that are really famous in our sages regarding the behaviors of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was his efforts, amazing efforts in this particular mitzvah of loving the fellow Jew. So Rabbi Shimon really got the message. He really impersonified, so to speak, this lesson of loving your fellow Jew. How do you know that? As we find that immediately after Rabbi Shimon left the cave, parentheses, the Rebbe doesn't bring it, it's a whole long story. The point is he was 12 years in a cave, and when he went out of the cave, and he didn't behave exactly like God wanted. So God sent him 1 more year to the cave, and after another year he came out, and this is the story that the Rebbe is quoting right now. He said immediately after leaving the cave for the second time, is there anything that needs to be fixed? That's the first thing he asked. Is there anything that needs to be fixed? And they answered him, yep, there's a place where there's a doubt whether there's a grave. That person or not, a grave. Somebody buried over there. There's a doubt. And there's a suffering. There's suffering for certain priests, koyanim, that they have to go through that place and they cannot be impurified by the dead body. So they have to move another longer way in order not to pass through this particular difficult, impure path. And Rabi Akiva made efforts and he fixed the thing. Whatever, he removed the cave or found out, I don't know exactly, the Talmud doesn't say either, but the point is he fixed the problem. Now, this story, it's a wondrous story, says the Rebbe. After being 13 years in the cave, and that's a long time, that he was not able to publicize Torah in public. He could not teach Torah. Apparently, the first thing he had to do, Rabbi Shimon, was to gather students and teach them Torah. Particularly, that Rabbi Shimon really lived the teaching of Torah. It was his life teaching Torah. So the first thing you do after you leave the cave, you go teach Torah. Apparently, that's the most normal thing to do. And instead of that, he worked to clarify whether is there anything I can do to help to fix something. He made the effort of fixing a place where there was a doubt of impurity that generated suffering, so to speak, suffering to the koyanim. That means, to the priests, point number 1, we're talking about something that only affects small number of people that lived in that particular place. And not everybody lives over there, and not everybody's a Kohen over there. So it just affected a very few number of people that they had to go through that particular way. That's point number one. Point number two, they could go in a different way. So just that, they had suffering and effort to move through a different path and so on. So it wasn't really something terrible, damaging people. It's a danger. No. It's just, you're bothering me. I have to walk 3 more blocks. Oy, what a bothering experience. And even so, Rabí Shimon, he made the effort and worked himself to fix this thing, to nullify this suffering that the Koyanim, these priests, had in that particular place. This is the measurement, so to speak, of how much love for the fellow Jew had Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. We see he really made an effort, even for a small group of people. And we can say that this is actually the content of one phrase of Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon has actually very interesting ideas, very interesting, so to speak, ideas that you could argue and need to be explained. I'm just going to bring one of them, not in connection to what the Rebbe is teaching. He's going to bring another one, but in order to understand what I'm trying to convey, Rabbi Shimon used to say, Man pnei Adon, you want to see the face of God? Dorash bi, look at me. You have to say such a thing. You want to see God? Look at me. Whatever, this is what Rabbi Shimon, and the truth is, he held in that particular, he wasn't at that particular level. He held that level, whatever that means. But he had very interesting phrases. One of them, let's see, we can understand now the reason why Rabbi Shimon said, I can exemptuate every single one in the world from judgment. I can really wipe out judgment from earth. That's the way he used to talk. His behavior in this particular mitzvah of Avas Israel, loving your fellow Jew and being together with your fellow Jew, was in such a perfect way, such an elevated way, that he was worried, and he made known that everybody should know that he was worried, and this was brought down and fixed in the Torah, in the Talmud, the way he loved, and I can't think of a different word, but love he had for other people, to the point that he actually said, I want to work for every single human being in the face of the earth. I can eradicate the judgment of God from the earth. He didn't need that for him. The judgment of God wasn't for him. He was a tzaddik. He was such a tremendous righteous person. It was for other people. And he was thinking, like, even though he didn't do it for whatever reason, I don't know, but this was his power. I can really make every single human being be okay with God. I can do that. Or God be okay with every single human being, whichever way you want to look at it. Doesn't matter. And that's the way he loved every single one. And we could say that since Rabbi Shimon was the main student of Rabi Akiva, there are stories about this. Rabbi Akiva said about Rabbi Shimon, he's like my best student, he's the greatest, and so on. Since, again, Rabbi Shimon was a student of Rabi Akiva, he gave himself completely, sacrificed his life, his soul, and so on, himself, to project this great rule of Rabi Akiva, of Avas Israel, of loving your fellow Jew, that Rabbi Akiva used to say this is the great rule of the Torah, and he fixed this idea, this story, that the students of Rabbi Akiva did not honor each other. So Rabbi Shimon fixed, so to speak, spiritually speaking, fixed what the students of Rabbi Akiva did in previous lives, previous times. Furthermore, the work, Avodas Hashem, the work and the Torah that he left, he actually projected to every single one of us, giving us the power, the koyach, the strength to come to the completeness of loving the fellow Jew, as we explained before. And it's mentioned in the Talmud also another interesting phrase regarding Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon is good enough, is strong enough, so to speak, to rely on him in a moment of need. That means that when you don't know the halacha, what the law is, for whatever reason you don't know, you don't have a rabbi to ask. So if you rely on Rabí Shimon, you do what Rabí Shimon says, you're going to be fine. Don't worry. It's good enough. Even if you don't know, just do what Rabí Shimon says, you're going to be fine. And what's the time of need today? What does that mean today? Our greatest need is the end, so to speak, of this last exile. And it's brought down in the Talmud. I'm not going to explain this in detail, that the reason that we still live in exile is because we hate each other for nothing. It's brought down in the Talmud why the second temple was destroyed. It's brought down that even the first temple was also destroyed for that. But the reason, the point is, over here, we hate each other just because we hate each other. And that brought the destruction of the second temple. So again, that's the greatest time of need, exile. And Rabí Shimon is good enough to rely on him that he will accentuate the whole world from this exile, this judgment. And this will speed up the Geula, the redemption of every single Jew, and the presence of God also that is in exile, with the true and complete Geula, redemption through Mashiach, our just Mashiach, speedily in our days. That's the end of the talk. Now, a very interesting note, important note to make regarding the mitzvahs Avas Israel. People misunderstand what the mitzvah is, how the mitzvah works. And I think, even though what I'm going to say is not connected to Lag BaOmer, and it's not connected to the Sichot of the Rebbe, it's connected to Bnei Noach, and it's connected to, I think, something has to be said. Even though it's not so nice, it has to be said anyway. And the idea is like this. There are 613 mitzvahs in the Torah. Of those mitzvahs, Bnei Noach don't have to keep any of them. Not obligated in any of them, except for the 7 commandments that are famous: don't kill, don't steal, and so on. Ahavas Israel, loving your fellow Jew, is not one of them. It's not one of the 7 commandments. And if you really dig deep down into what this commandment is all about, the Torah says, Ve'ohavta, you will love, L'reyacha, your fellow, kamoicha, like you. And our sages explain that this applies to a fellow that is like you. It's not just you will love the other one like you love yourself. That's the common translation. And what has been published because of Christianity and so on, that this guy came and said that's the only important thing in the world and so on, he didn't understand a thing. Or his students didn't understand a thing. I'm acting right now like the students of Rabi Akiva. I can't stand that somebody else doesn't understand. But the point is, that's not a mitzvah for Bnei Noach. Not at all. Why? It's a mitzvah for Jews to love another Jew. L'reyacha, that to love your fellow, that he is like you. A Jew loves another Jew. Now, that doesn't mean, the other side of the coin, that doesn't mean that we have to hate somebody that is not a Jew. Not at all. It is not written anywhere. Not at all. And that doesn't mean that one non-Jew cannot love another non-Jew. Yeah, that you can love anybody you want. The question over here is it a mitzvah? Am I fulfilling the commandment of loving my fellow, suppose your neighbor? So you go out to the street and you see a neighbor and you can't stand this guy. You would kill him if you could. But whatever, the Torah says I have to love him, so I'm going to love my neighbor. No, you don't have a mitzvah of loving the neighbor. Not at all. But you cannot disrespect him, you cannot, insult him or do not nice things, ugly things to him. Not at all. That's forbidden. But non-Jews do not have a mitzvah of loving each other. They have to respect, they have to be correct and just and righteous and so on, but not the mitzvah of loving each other. And the Jews don't have a mitzvah of loving a non-Jew, not at all, but they are obligated to respect every single creature in the whole world. So I think it's important to put every single thing in its place. Having said all of that, the Rebbe mentioned many times, in order to finish, the Rebbe mentioned many times that one of the roles of non-Jews is to create a just society with morality, with ethics, and so on. And one of the fundamental things in this just society and so on is respect. So we do have to, and we're all Jews and non-Jews, obligated to respect each other, definitely.